Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti has a plan to bring more jobs and businesses to the area.
We're going to market LA because it isn't our sunshine, it isn't our great geography and our great people that is going to sell this place. We have to actually get out there and hustle for business like we're a forgotten Midwestern town.
It is about being business focused. It is about being business-like.
The city of Los Angeles has the highest business tax of any city in LA County and one of the highest in the nation. Another move to bring more dollars back to the city's pockets?
We have to eliminate, not reduce, but eliminate the gross receipts tax altogether, period.
And invest in infrastructure.
We're looking at a plan to fix every single street in the next 10 years and sidewalks as well.
With officials running City Hall like the multi-million-dollar business that it is, and with business owners focused on achieving success, the mayor says improvement is inevitable.
I know that if we get out there and we are able to train, and we are able to build, and we are able to convene, and we are able to market this town, our best days are ahead of us.
From City Hall, I'm Cindy San Luis for LA This Week.
The unemployment rate in the city is a little higher than 11%. That's above the 8.9% in the state of California and over the 7% unemployment rate in the U.S., according to the LA Chamber of Commerce. County health officials are again urging people to get their flu shots as flu season arrives earlier than expected. Gil Reyes takes us to a senior center where vaccinations were offered free of charge.
You can roll up your sleeve and take it like a soldier or clutch onto mom for dear life. Whatever you do, make sure you're vaccinated if you fit the criteria, as flu season creeps up, taking many of us by surprise.
Flu season came early this year. We've actually had hospitalizations and deaths, flu-related deaths in LA County already. This is very unusual. Normally, flu season starts sometime in November or so.
LA County health officials recently gave free flu vaccinations at East Valley Adult Center in Van Nuys.
It was good. Didn't hurt a lot. Just it hurt a little, but not a lot.
Unfortunately, flu changes periodically, so there's usually a new strain that we have to protect people from. So it is important that you get a flu vaccine every year.
The vaccine is recommended for everyone 6 months of age or older. Pregnant women can request a preservative-free version. Another option is the nasal spray, unless you have a history of diabetes, heart, and lung disease. This event also served as an emergency drill between the city and county in case of a pandemic.
How we would work together in a real public health emergency. We would be setting up a location like this, working together, and we're actually practicing that today, but the community's benefiting with free flu shots.
It can only help you, it can't hurt you, and you're also protecting your family, your neighborhood, your city.
In Van Nuys, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
And effective this season, LA County healthcare workers will be required to receive annual flu vaccinations or wear a protective mask when working with patients. It's an annual tradition in the decades-long fight against AIDS. Anna Marcos takes us to West Hollywood for the 29th annual AIDS Walk LA that also brought our city leaders out onto the streets.
A day full of colorful balloons, colorful people, and lively tricks and flips. And it's all to highlight the sobering facts of AIDS. It's been almost 30 years since AIDS Project Los Angeles kicked off its annual AIDS Walk LA in West Hollywood. But a cure has yet to be found. The money raised at this event helps local AIDS organizations and those living with HIV and AIDS.
I have benefited in every possible way, from getting health care to getting food from the food bank and dental services, including mental health.
Among the celebrities who came to support the cause, fitness guru Richard Simmons, who wore various wigs as he warmed up the crowd for the vigorous 6-mile walk.
With hope, you can cope, and you just have to embrace life and know how important life is. And kiss people that you truly love.
More than 30,000 people hit the pavement, among them some of LA's own city leaders, many of whom have lost loved ones to AIDS.
This is about preventing AIDS. This is about making sure people are educated and know. But I'm also here personally because I've lost family members to AIDS. My father's first cousin, Jimmy Hester, was one of the first victims of the AIDS crisis here in Los Angeles.
Unfortunately, I've known over 200 people that have either had AIDS and died or have HIV and are struggling to survive.
But mainly the Walk United people of all stripes, AIDS and HIV victims, as well as friends, families, and just people who care.
AIDS is a big problem now in society, and I know like a lot of them become outcasted, so it's good to help them out. Hopefully I'll be able to survive the 6 miles. I've never walked 6 miles before, so let's hope.
And there's another hope for many here, that those with the disease survive until there's a cure. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
Teens interested in working in law enforcement and serving as LAPD cadet recruits seem to have rubbed off on their parents. As Gil Reyes tells us, the parents of these aspiring officers are taking a course of their own at the Parent Academy.
The group heads to class every Saturday in October. Not little kids, but parents of children with big dreams.
We just learned so much. It's a really, really good opportunity for parents to join when it's actually free.
Jolene Vera is the mother of a 14-year-old aspiring FBI agent. While he's enrolled in the LAPD's cadet recruit program, she's enrolled in something mainly for mom and dad. Welcome to Parent Academy at LAPD headquarters.
Topics like alcohol abuse, drug awareness, internet crimes against children, and things like that. And so currently in each of these classes in English and Spanish, we have 2 LAPD instructors who are subject matter experts, and today they're learning about alcohol abuse.
The goal is to teach parents not only what their children are learning as cadet recruits, but also what they're facing as teens and young adults. Crime trends among young people include an increase in recreational drug use and the use of social media in bullying and sex crimes.
I believe this will be a good opportunity for myself.
It's a good investment on their children, and basically they're leading by example, and the children look up to this.
While the Cadet Recruit Academy is an 18-week course, Parent Academy is 8 weeks. Lessons that can make a difference in raising that future peace officer the right way. At LAPD headquarters, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
At the end of both programs, young people and their parents both receive certificates from the city and are invited to attend a special graduation ceremony at USC. A campaign to keep streets clean in one council district, celebrating the heritage of LA's Native American Tongvas, and students take a field trip to City Hall. These stories and more in City Beat. Councilman Gil Cedillo kicked off the Keep It Clean campaign in his first council district with the installation of solar-powered trash compactors in the high-traffic area of the MacArthur Park Metro Red Line station. These new bins crush garbage down so they hold more inside and thereby help to reduce trash pickup from 5 days a week to just a few times a month.
We're initiating a campaign to clean the streets of the first district, and we're very excited about that. We're using technology, solar power, and people power.
Part of the Keep It Clean campaign enlists volunteers who, together with sanitation workers, will clean the streets of Council District 1. The Gabrielino Tongva Springs Foundation and the Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs presented the 16th annual Life Before Columbus Festival in West LA during the Sunday of the Columbus Day weekend. The event featured Native American Tongva dances, music, storytelling, craft making, and artifact displays.
It's to show what our life was before contact with the European. Our history is not told in a correct way, so our way of showing the public, the community, the city of Los Angeles is that we still exist. We still live here.
The festival was held at the Caruvangna Springs Cultural Center and Museum right by University High School, where the indigenous Gabrielino Tongva Indians once called home. LAPD detectives arrested 28-year-old DeCarlo Bennett at his home in Paramount in connection with the dry ice bomb explosions at LAX on October 13th and 14th. Bennett is an employee of Service Air, which provides aviation ground services at LAX and other airports around the world. Police say Bennett told them he detonated the bombs as a joke. Richard Henry Dana Middle School students from San Pedro had the opportunity to visit City Hall recently. The students, part of a leadership class that collected donations for a City Hall sock drive for the homeless, were recognized for their hard work.
They collected over 500 pairs of socks for the needy in the city of Los Angeles, and this is the first leadership class that Michelle Crow re-energized at Dana Middle School, and that's Dana Middle School. Michelle's my sister, and she and I both attended Dana.
These kids are your future leaders. They're great kids. I'm very proud to be their teacher.
It was the first visit to City Hall for many of the students. Dana Middle School is a magnet school. It started off as a small grassroots gathering for deaf community members and has now grown into something much larger, an event that educates the public and further strengthens an already tight-knit community. Rasha Goel takes us to this year's Deaf Fest.
LA City Hall recently hosted the 15th annual Deaf Festival LA, an event that has become the largest of its kind in the nation. The festival aims to provide guidance and resources for deaf and hearing impaired individuals and their families.
And the purpose of Deaf Festival is really just to bring people together who are deaf, deaf-blind, hard of hearing, and also people who can hear. We want to bring them together so they can exchange some information.
A full day of activities and a variety of information regarding services and the latest technology were available for attendees. Among the exhibitors was a group called Special Spirit, which offers therapy on horseback for those with various disabilities.
We know and discover that horses can help people feel better about themselves. So we use their wisdom to help people gain insight and knowledge about themselves.
One company specializing in telephones showcased a variety of options catering to a variety of needs.
The phones are made in different ways to accommodate hearing loss. They're louder and clearer. We have phones to accommodate vision problems. We have big buttons that talk, or you can dial by voice. If you have trouble getting to the phone, we have phones that clip on. Just sign up with us, californiaphones.org, and you can get a free application for a free phone.
Christy Baker, whose son is deaf, drove 3 hours to get here and says it was worth the drive.
It's really wonderful to see the deaf community getting together and just the different organizations that are there for the deaf community.
A community that's proud of its culture and eager to share it with anyone willing to learn. I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
Committee members of Deaf Fest LA say they hope to see more collaboration between city government and the deaf community. This year's festival was hosted by council members Herb Wesson and Jose Huizar. In this week's list of things to do, a one-day festival celebrating handcrafted goods and mom-and-pop stores, a hike in Runyon Canyon, and the first ever festival celebrating a famous hot sauce. If you're a fan of Etsy, the online handcrafted marketplace, then check out the one-day pop-up festival taking place at Crafted at the Port of Los Angeles in the beautiful Oceanside community of San Pedro on Saturday, October 26th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. The indoor event, dubbed the Mom and Pop-Up Shop, is a collaboration between SoCal Etsy Guild and the Crafted Marketplace. You can buy handcrafted one-of-a-kind items as vendors set up shop for just one day. There will also be live music, DJs, beer, and food trucks to satisfy your appetite. Crafted at the Port of Los Angeles is located at 110 East 22nd Street in San Pedro. Go to craftedportla.com. Griffith Park Ranger Ernie Abar Ibarra will be leading an advanced Runyon Canyon Park hike on Saturday, October 26th. Meet at 8 a.m. at the Mulholland parking lot at 7200 West Mulholland Drive. The cross street is 2600 North Desmond Estate Road. This hike will have very steep up and down hills. As with any hike, Ranger Ibarra reminds participants to dress accordingly, wear hats, sunscreen, and bring water and snacks. And he notes that hikes are always canceled in the event of rain. For more information, email the ranger at ernie.ibarra@lacity.org. If you love Sriracha hot chili sauce, you know, the one with the rooster on the bottle, then you won't want to miss the first ever Sriracha Festival taking place Sunday, October 27th from 3 to 6 p.m. It'll be taking place in the Arts District at Lot 613, located at 613 Imperial Street. This all-inclusive 21-over event spotlights the world's most iconic hot sauce by featuring multiple stations that allow guests to enjoy a variety of Sriracha-themed dishes, including desserts. Go to nightout.com/events/LA Sriracha Festival for ticket prices and information. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do. Our next story, you won't want to take your eyes off the screen. It's truly a sight to behold, especially here in the hustle and bustle of the city. A flock of thousands upon thousands of migratory birds taking refuge in an unlikely place. These tiny dots dancing in formation may look like a swarm of bees from afar, but they're actually a massive flock of Boxus swifts hovering above the LA sky, mesmerizing their captive audience as they prepare to make a stop for the night on their way south for the fall.
They do a bit of like a tease when they're going into the chimney because they fly around a couple times and then they finally just enter into the chimney.
The Boxus swift is a tiny migratory bird some describe as a cigar with crescent wings. It's migrating from Canada and northern Washington state to southern Mexico and Central America.
It's just really interesting how you see all these birds kind of come together because there's a lot of them and they all kind of just descend into this chimney.
While the concrete jungle of Los Angeles may not be where you imagine migratory birds might take refuge on their long journey, Jeff Chapman of the Audubon Center at Debs Park says our city is more hospitable to wildlife than you might think.
Because of the Los Angeles River, which is a great resource for them because they eat insects. There's a lot of insects over the river, and they also utilize our urban parks like Griffith Park, Elysian Park, and Debs Park as places to forage and find food.
On a recent Saturday, bird lovers as well as curious city slickers joined the Audubon Center atop the roof of Joe's Auto Park at 440 Broadway for the Birds Over Broadway event to catch the spectacle of nature in action across the way at the Spring Arts Building. That building's chimney is where the birds enter en masse at dusk for an evening of rest. And this phenomenon is repeated night after night as other flocks of birds on the same migratory path stay at the same rest stops.
In the heart of downtown, nature's around us and surrounds us, and we can have an impact on nature and the natural world.
And to ensure that the Spring Arts Building remains hospitable to these migrating birds, the Audubon Center reached out to Councilmember Jose Huizar's office for help.
Unfortunately, there was a property owner that kind of cut off the chimney for these birds, over 10,000 of them that nested here. Through the work of my staff member Martin, we were able to work with the neighboring property owner that allowed their chimney and access to their property to be used, and the birds automatically went in there.
The city's and the Audubon Center's commitment to protect wildlife has made it possible for these Boxus swifts to reach their final destination, and for Angelenos to take in this awe-inspiring sight smack dab in the middle of the hustle and bustle of downtown life. Jeff Chapman of the Audubon Center says the birds could come through our city as late October, depending on how the resources are further to the north. To find out other bird-related activities in our region, you can go to birdla.com. And that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
brave troops and their families stand up for us.
For years, we've asked so much of so few.
Now we have a chance to serve these heroes.
To give time, offer comfort, or lend a hand.
To ease the burden on a military family.
Let's honor their service by volunteering ours.
G'day, Troy McCubbin from North Hollywood. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35, our city, our channel.
Good morning. Good morning. I want to welcome you to your Los Angeles City Council. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. All members of the public are welcome. Mr. Clerk, I do believe we have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bonham, Buscaino, Cedillo, Aguilar, Fuentes, Huizar, Carrasco, Corrigan, Labange, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Weston, 12 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Huizar moves. Englander seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Martinez moves. O'Farrell seconds. Next.
Mr. President, items 1 and 2 are items noticed for public hearing. We do have cards on item number 2, sir.
Well, let's hold item number 2.
And I am, pardon me, sir, I'm being told that we should hold item 1 on the desk for an amending motion.
Okay, so then we'll hold both of these items. That brings us where?
Mr. President, items 3 through 9 are items for which public hearings have been held. Items 8 and 9 were subsequently waived, and therefore a public hearing was not held.
Do we have cards on 8 and 9?
Council does not have cards on those 2 items, sir.
Okay, so where it relates to 8 and 9, those, without objection, those items are before us. Do we have cards on... Okay, so we're fine. All right, so members, specials. Okay, let's prepare to vote. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Yes. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Yes, Mr. Buscaino.
7, please.
If you could repeat that.
Can we reconsider item 7, sir, please?
Okay, on item 7, we're going to vote for reconsideration. Let's open the roll.
Thank you. I have an amendment for that.
Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, so Mr. Buscaino, if you have an amendment, make sure it's circulated, and we'll take it up
Thank you.
at the appropriate time. Mr. Bonin, Mike Bonin, it's good to see you today without a tie. Let's keep it that way. Last time you wore a tie, you jinxed us. So let's, no more ties for Mr. Bonin. Mr. Clerk, next section.
Items 10 through 13 are items for which a public hearing has not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, without objection, those items are now before us. Do we have any cards?
Yes, sir, we do. We have cards on items 10 and 11.
Okay, let's hold those 2 items, and that leaves 12 and 13 for us to take up.
Correct. There's also a request from a member to call item 12 special.
Okay, then we'll call 12 special as well. And now let's vote on item 13. No speakers in the queue. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And, Mr. President, there's a request to send that matter forthwith.
Forthwith, without objection. Okay, that brings us, where are we now? Oh, we're a little, might be a minute early.
It looks, actually, according to my clock here, we're right at 10:15 if you care to go into the special.
Okay, so what I'll do, we'll just hold off on that, and that brings us back to where, Mr. Clerk? So are we at presentation?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, Mr. Labange, I want to quickly recognize you.
Mr. President, we're very honored to have with us today the Consul General of Mongolia, Consul General Naya Durish. Give him a big hand. Come up here, everybody. Mongolia is a great country, and we look for the friendship. Many thousands of Mongolians live in the old 4th District, which is now part of the 1st, part of the 13th, and the central area. We thank you. Welcome to Los Angeles.
Thank you very
much. Okay. Good. Thank you, Mr. President. How do you say thank you in Mongolian?
Okay.
Baidullah. That's thank you in Mongolian. Baidullah.
I tell you, Mr. Labange, you just speak so many languages. I'm impressed. Every week you have a new one. You add a new one. Okay, if I could, I'm looking towards Mr. Englander. Mr. Englander, I have a presentation. If you could come take the chair.
Now have a presentation from Mr. Wesson. If we could put our hands together for Councilmember Herb Wesson, our Council President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll take a mercy applause whenever I can take one. So thank you guys very much. Today is a very, very special day. This is the 60th anniversary of the Southern California Permanente Medical Group. For many of the members, first of all, let me say many of our employees are clients or patients, and many of the members of the council have facilities in their districts. We have Mitch O'Farrell, who has the Los Angeles Medical Center in the city of LA. Nuri Martinez, Panorama City. Mr. Buscaino, you have the South Bay. I am blessed to have the West LA Medical Facility. And Bob, you have in Woodland Hills, Mr. Bloomingfield has one of these facilities. They're celebrating their 60th year. And their origins trace back to 1942 when a Dr. Garfield was asked by Henry Kaiser to establish a health care plan for the workers of the Kaiser Steel Mill in Fontana. So in 1945, enrollment was opened to individuals in the Fontana area. In 1950, some labor unions or employee associations joined. They expanded. They had a medical facility in Mr. Buscaino, your area, and the following year they established one in the Los Angeles area. In 1953, 13 physicians established the Southern California Permanente Medical Group. On September 28th of this year, they had a big luncheon, a big celebration, and one of the surviving physicians was able to attend. You know, all of us have our personal stories, or at least I do. I've been a member of Kaiser Permanente for almost 40 years. They have treated every child that I have, my wife and myself, and I feel very comfortable when I go to those facilities, and I feel comfortable, I feel good, I feel confident in the medical care because of the people that work there. And today it's my pleasure to present to you Dr. Edward Ellison, Ed Ellison, who is the Executive Medical Director / Chairman of the Board of Southern California Permanente Medical Group, right? So if I could ask Kaiser to come up here with me. Come on, all of you. All of the Kaiser folk. And Bob, if you wanted to step up, Nuri, if you wanted to step up, you do have facilities in your district. Okay, Dr. Ellison, I think, is just finishing or about to begin his second year in this role. He currently oversees approximately 6,000 physicians, and they have almost 4 million members in the Southern California region. Now, Ed is known as a very smart, likable, hard-working individual, and I'm trying to, here it is, and what his goal is to be the best at getting to be the best. Right. And I really appreciate that, because everyone should strive to get better. Now, as I read his bio, I also saw that this man never takes an elevator. He always takes the stairs. So when I met him this morning, I thought I would be a smart aleck and suggest that he walk up to the Bradley Tower, which is 27 stories, I believe. And he said, yes, he'd do that. So anyway, I will not joke with you again. I will take the elevator and meet you up there, Doctor. But I'd like to bring forward,
yes,
to accept a heavy certificate of recognition signed by every member of this council for the outstanding work and the service that you provide to Angelenos. And again, from a personal perspective, you know, I've had 3 of my 4 sons born there. I don't want to steal Mr. Corrett's thunder, but I think this young man might have been born there. His wife, Gail, worked there for many, many years, so you're like family to us. So it is a pleasure to present to you on behalf of the City Council a certificate to the Southern California Permanente Medical Group. Please give them a round of applause. Ed, where are you? Lurking behind me, the tall man that you are. Let's give him another round of applause. Ed, did you want to say a few words? And then I'm going to turn the program over to Mitchell O'Farrell.
Thank you.
So if we could,
thank you.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction. We thank you so much for the opportunity to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Southern California Permanente Medical Group. It's remarkable to think that it was January 1st, 1953, that 13 visionary physicians founded this organization that is now viewed as one of the answers to health care for our country, grown to over 7,000 physicians, caring for more than 3.6 million members at 14 Kaiser Foundation hospitals and 190 medical offices, and really mixing the latest in technology, innovation, connectedness, electronic medical record, a focus on prevention, the best at sick care if you need it, but all mixed together with just good old-fashioned caring from the heart. We serve and proudly serve diverse communities of many cultures and ethnicities and languages, and celebrate and embrace that within our workforce and the people of Kaiser Permanente as well. And we have that same commitment in leading the nation in so many areas of quality. But when it comes down to it, it's one patient at a time, and ensuring that we give that caring, personal, and expert touch. We bring that same commitment to the future as we have to our past in terms of caring, compassionate care. Thank you so much for celebrating with us. Thank you.
Councilmember Mitchell Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. The healthcare industry is the #1 employer in the 13th District, and I'm probably not alone in that statistic. It's an honor for me to join my colleagues to congratulate Kaiser Permanente Los Angeles Medical Center on its 60th anniversary and for their dedicated service to the city of Los Angeles. Medical Center opened its doors in 1953, and for the past 6 years has become Kaiser Permanente's flagship hospital on Sunset Boulevard, a leading medical facility in Southern California. Kaiser Permanente LAMC has become a prestigious teaching and research hospital that specializes in 40 different specialty care services, including cardiac surgery, neurosurgery, radiation oncology. Kaiser Permanente is one of the largest employers in the city of LA with over 6,000 employees, many of whom volunteer countless hours of their time and expertise to the community. The hospital distributes over $500,000 to local community health clinics and nonprofit organizations every year. Therefore, we're very excited about the medical center's future development. In 2014, the hospital will be adding 96 beds, along with a larger discharge pharmacy, new laboratory, and more green space. Before I bring forward Mr. Mark Costa, Executive Director for Kaiser Permanente Los Angeles Medical Center, to say a few words, I'd like to present Kaiser Permanente with another certificate with this resolution signed by the City of Los Angeles as we extend our sincerest congratulations on the occasion of your 60th year anniversary and for all that you do in our community. In the words of Allison Janney, live well and thrive.
All right. So we do have Mr. LaBonge is on the queue. Mr. LaBonge, do you want to say a few words real quick?
Say some great things about Kaiser Permanente.
Don't go anywhere because we want him to speak. But I have other members up here that we should afford the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very well.
So we'll be right with you. Okay, if you'd go on.
Yep. Okay. Well, just as Dr. Ellison shared, I too want to thank the council. On behalf of our 750 physicians, our 220 residents and fellows, and 6,000 employees right at Los Angeles Medical Center, I want to share their sense of pride and really privilege to serve the Los Angeles citizens that we do. There's no doubt that our community, our diverse community, presents our caregivers every day opportunities to make a difference in someone's life, and that's meaningful work. It brings them back each day doing the quality of work that they do. And, you know, as Councilman Farrell shared, we've got such an investment on Sunset and Vermont. We're continuing that investment and just want to share our commitment, just as it's been over the last 60 years, that we are going to continue to do meaningful work for the citizens of Los Angeles. And finally, to emphasize that our mission isn't just to serve the members of Kaiser Permanente, but it is to do work that makes all of our communities healthier. Thank you.
If we could have Ms. Martinez say a few words, followed by Mr. Koretz, followed by Mr. Bloomingfield, and Joey B. will close.
Thank you, Mr. President. All I can say is my baby girl, Isabel, was born in Kaiser Permanente, Panorama City, 4 years ago, in your brand new hospital. I can't say nothing but wonderful things about the hospital, but also as the former executive director of Pacoima Beautiful, I can speak about the commitment you have, not only in environmental justice, but you're leading the way in making sure that you give back to the communities that you serve. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much, and congratulations. Yes. Congratulations.
Well, coincidentally enough, it's almost my 60th anniversary, and that's because I was born at Kaiser LA Medical Center shortly after it opened. Back then, I was a baby in a drawer. They had a system where they had the maternity ward circled by the rooms of the mothers, and when you wanted the baby, you would just pull the drawer and it would be next to you. And when you wanted to get some sleep, you would just push the drawer and the baby would be in the maternity ward. So I never heard what happened to it. I assume at some point maybe some little finger got caught in the drawer or something, and everyone said, maybe not a good idea. They have not done that for many decades anywhere that I know of. I've had the good fortune to get a tour when the newly renovated LA Medical Center was brand new, and I did that tour with some of the Kaiser surgeons who saw it for the first time, and they were so excited about being able to do their work in this kind of a state-of-the-art facility. One of the many reasons why I am sure they will be fighting with each other to be able to get a job at Kaiser, and particularly at LA Medical Center. Because my wife, Gail, who's right there, worked there for many, many years, I got to know a lot of the amazing staff. there is not a hospital with a sharper staff that you could find anywhere. So it's my pleasure to join my colleagues in recognizing LA Medical Center for all the good work that they've done and will continue to do.
I want to echo the sentiments of my colleague. It's a pleasure to be here to celebrate the 60th anniversary. Kaiser is an amazing place offering just great community service. It's also, I know it's a great place to work. My sister is a social worker at Kaiser and always talks about how it's a great place to work. And Kaiser's also just always integrated into the community. From back, I remember when the earthquake hit in '94, in the Woodland Hills Kaiser facility had to basically take all the overflow for everyone else. They stepped up to it then, and they continue to step up to it. We do community meetings at the Kaiser facility in Woodland Hills. It is not only a great medical facility, but it is a great community facility, a great community organization, and I'm proud to stand here and help celebrate. Thank you.
All right. I, too, want to join the choir in recognizing Kaiser Permanente and the LA Medical Group for what they do day in and day out for our residents. Specifically in Harbor City, the South Bay facility, where it is now expanding its footprint and not only creating construction jobs, but will really be the hub of care and providing service to our residents. Not only that, as Mr. Blumenfeld mentioned, how they give back to their community. In Watts, the Family Counseling Center has been funded by Kaiser Permanente. For that, we're ever so grateful. Dr. Ellison, thank you. My mom and dad have been Kaiser members for many, many years. Our nephew Lucas was born at the Harbor City site, so it's family. And we thank you. God bless you. Thank you for everyone at Kaiser for providing their ongoing service to their members.
And Mr. President, this is very good. Ms. Martinez said it so well about her daughter. My son Charles, my daughter Mary Catherine were born there in the old building, so they were born in space now because there's no old building anymore, which is nice. But the great thing, too, the care that you gave my mom when she was 5, and she went straight to heaven from Kaiser, which is okay. And I want to call out Rita does it all. What is her, Rita at Kaiser, the helping community. Former deputy, the late great John Froh. Good job. Thank you, Kaiser.
Push on her.
No. Back to you.
Oh, you
good job.
Anyway, Mr. President, we want to thank you for allowing us to make this presentation. And one more time, if we could give it a round of applause to these great people who focus on trying to keep us alive.
Great, thank you very much. And as we're bringing Mr. Koretz, if you want to stay up there for your next presentation, let me just say a word about Kaiser as well as you're all walking away from the podium. You know, we've closed, this will be my personal service announcement about hospitals and healthcare here in the region. We've closed in the last 25 years almost 18 hospitals in this region, and hospitals are on life support. And Kaiser has done so much with so many other hospitals as well, the Providence family and so many others that continue to provide critical care for all the residents and all the Angelenos throughout this region. And so my hat's off to them as well. So thank you very much. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this morning we're privileged to honor B'nai B'rith International on the occasion of its amazing 170th anniversary. Think of that, 170 years of profound, selfless leadership and treasured service helping people. Accepting our proclamation on behalf of B'nai B'rith is Roz Klein. She is an international senior vice president and their highest-ranking woman volunteer. She was also the first female president of the Southern California region from 2000 to 2003. I happily recall leading a salute to her back then on behalf of the California Assembly. She is here today with Inbar Cohen, a hearing officer who works in the city attorney's office, who's right over there. Today, though, we celebrate the glorious 170th anniversary of B'nai B'rith. As you may know, this remarkable organization was founded on the Lower East Side of New York to improve the lives of new German Jewish immigrants to America. It was 1983. I remember it well personally. No, I'm not quite that old. That Henry Jones... 1843. 1843. Did I say that wrong?
Yes,
okay.
You said 1983.
1940. Okay. 1843, that Henry Jones and 11 other German Jewish immigrants gathered in a cafe on the Lower East Side to confront what one of B'nai B'rith's founders called the deplorable condition of Jews in this, our newly adopted country. Thus, B'nai B'rith, which means children of the covenant, was born. And from the start, it was of huge benefit to Jews and all of humanity by helping countless people in need. It is now the oldest service organization in the United States, and it has an unparalleled record of aiding humanity in communities throughout the U.S., but also in more than 50 other nations, providing over $100 million in cash, medical equipment, and supplies to victims of disasters worldwide since 1988. B'nai B'rith is a strong and vocal advocate for the protection of the State of Israel and has had an active presence in Israel since 1968. B'nai B'rith has had a vital role as a non-governmental organization at the United Nations since its founding, and is the only Jewish NGO with full-time representation at the United Nations in New York and its agencies in Europe and Latin America. B'nai B'rith is America's largest Jewish sponsor of federally funded housing for seniors of limited income and provides safe, comfortable, and affordable housing for seniors without regard to race, religion, ethnicity, and has claimed an international network of senior facilities. B'nai B'rith is widely acclaimed as a forceful advocate for senior citizens, with a special emphasis on protecting Social Security and Medicare and supporting health care reform for all. My friends on this council who serve the Valley are especially familiar with the B'nai B'rith Bagel, this is a hard thing to say, B'nai B'rith Bagel Brigade, I'll say that 5 times fast, which provides free food to people in need in the San Fernando Valley. They give special attention to ensuring that children from low-income families don't go to school hungry. Indeed, B'nai B'rith members, wherever they are, provide countless hours of service to many local projects to better the communities in which they live. And so without further ado, let me invite Ms. Roz Klein to share a few thoughts.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Alan Jacobs, the president of B'nai B'rith International, I want to thank His Honor the Mayor, Councilman Paul Koretz, and the rest of the council for this wonderful honor. I will be taking it back with me to Washington, D.C. in the middle of November, where I will have it proudly displayed at our conference honoring the 170th. B'nai B'rith here in Southern California is remarkable in that we have the one and only 202 HUD housing facility in the state of California, and it's located in North Hollywood. It is the Golden Years apartment complex, and it is primarily Russian, which I find very interesting. Again, thank you very, very much. I will be proud to present this, and thank you.
Thank you. Give them a round of applause. Thank you.
And so congratulations on 170 years and Mazel Tov.
Thank you very much.
One in this direction, too. Can we do one in this direction?
Okay, Mr. Koretz, if I could hustle you to the back so maybe you can get a few photos with Kaiser. Your wife is looking for you. All right. Before we do the next presentation, I'll call up an item. We're going to move to item 11, called special by Arnold Sachs. Arnold, I see you. Juana Kala, I see you as well. You want to pass on this one? And I'm looking for John, Mr. Walsh. Okay, I see him. Okay, so I have Mr. Sachs who passes, Juana Kala, John Walsh, please come forward. On item 11.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. We have a new web page on HollywoodHighlands.org. It's up now. For number 11 again, it's my old friend Reap, assessor, Southwest Lake Avenue. The landlord is in big trouble. The landlord's not doing his job. He's been cited and he hasn't done the repairs. South Ursula Avenue, the landlord hasn't done his repairs. West 20th Street, landlord hasn't done the repairs. Just want everyone out there to know, if your landlord does not do the repairs, you call up and there will be an inspection. When Hahn was mayor, every unit in the city was inspected. When I was at work, I had to sign something. The inspector came in, and he wrote up my landlord for something I was tolerating. But he got written up, the landlord got written up. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Mr. Akala?
Well, yeah, on this thing, once again, we should not even have any landlords and tenants anymore. We are an advanced society, so on these items, it's like, okay, you're supervising the landlords, but nobody should be supervising the landlords, because if we all had our own place to live, we would not have to be under supervision of anybody. We would supervise our own housing. By the way, those people from Kaiser Permanente, a lot of them look really unhealthy.
On the subject, Mr. Akala, on the subject, please. All right, on this item, that concludes public comment. Let's prepare to vote on this, Madam Clerk. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, now we're going to move to item 10 quickly, and item 10 is called special by... You know, Mr. Herman, I don't see cards. Wait, I do see constituent. So Mr. Sachs, item 10. Constituent, item 10. Akala, Mr. Akala, item 10. Mr. John Walsh, item 10. If you guys could please come forward. Yes, Arnold, good to see you.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, sir. Mikla, and the role of the commissioners or the board of directors, Mikla, for the information for the public, is a municipal corporation of Los Angeles, but it's more than that. It's a nonprofit, and the members of the nonprofit are the sitting city councilmen. And what they do is they vote to issue bonds that affect the city's debt, the debt payment. You'll hear a lot about that when they talk about the deficit that the city has when they're talking about the budget. The debt payment that would be necessary for the new police headquarters. The debt payment that would be necessary to be paid for the convention center. There's an item that was on the agenda, but they're looking to put an inventory of buildings, infrastructure for the city that will increase the debt payment. And what happens here is there's no discussion. There might be limited public comment about it, but there's really no discussion from the public because, A, it's a nonprofit corporation. It doesn't have to have an agenda available to the public. And they'll just vote. And they will vote to issue bonds that will become the responsibility of the city to pay for. And if you look at what happened with the Crenshaw line, they created a nonprofit similar to Mikla so that they could get money, but not to actually use for the Crenshaw line, but to use for other metro projects. And so there is no guarantee that what they are voting on or voting for will actually be used for the project that they're voting on or voting for. There was a story in yesterday's newspaper, or today's newspaper, that there's a new application that's been created by the city controller's office. And the important part of that is he's quoted that knowledge is power. That's the important part. Knowledge is power. Pay attention. Call your councilman. Find out what's going on in city council.
Thanks, Mr. Sachs. Mr. Akala, I see you. Come on up. If you want to speak, come on. Come on, Juan. Mr. Constituent. No, then you'll forfeit your time. I called your name and you're not coming. Mr. Walsh, come on. No, come on. Pass. Okay, I got you. Mr. Constituent, come on up behind Mr. Walsh.
I said I passed.
I heard you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to spend 2 minutes talking about something I don't know that much about, okay? You know, when I don't know something about, I don't just get up here and jerk off. Others do. I don't. You know that. But MICLA stands for, maybe someone might, the Municipal Improvement Corporation of Los Angeles. It should be under the Brown Act that if someone wants to hire a lawyer and put your feet to the fire, their meetings must be open to the public. But you have to hire a lawyer, and you have to threaten them. They give you nothing here unless you threaten them with a lawsuit. Zuma Dog proved that, didn't he? But as far as Mr. Keeley is concerned, he is a big friend of the mayor, and that's why he's getting it. But at least he's never been involved in kiddie porn, where one of Villaraigosa's appointments were.
Mr. President,
Hollywood Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Constituent, please come forward.
I know they bother us, but don't get upset. I'll make this very brief. It's as Arnold Sachs puts it, and as HollywoodHighland.org, John Walsh puts it, what are you going to do for this type of items when they come before the public? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Constituent. There are no speakers on the queue. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right. Mr. Price, would you like to proceed with your presentation? If all of you could please go and stand behind Councilmember Price, because we want everybody to see how good looking you are. And Mr. Price, I must say this is a very exciting moment.
It is
to have these people with us today.
Exciting, Mr. President, and historic as we gather around. It's my distinct honor today to recognize the Wiley College and the University of Southern California exhibition debate. These students with me today are from Wiley College, the Wiley College debate team, and they come from all over the country. Some of the debaters and their coach, Christopher Medina, behind me, are from Southern California, so a big welcome home to all of you. Now ranked 4th in the nation, Wiley's debate team completed the 2012-2013 season in competition, having amassed 82 national awards, 368 season-long awards, and 16 championship trophies, and the first team title by an historically black college. The debate team is affiliated with the Phi Kappa Delta, the National Forensic Association, and the American Forensics Association. Later today, they will be reenacting the famous debate between Wiley College and USC at the USC campus, where I will have the honor of being a judge. Some of you may know the story of the debate from the film The Great Debaters, starring Denzel Washington. It took place in 1935, a time of turmoil in the South we know as the Jim Crow era. students from Wiley College, a historically black college located in Marshall, Texas, took on the debate team from the University of Southern California. While the Wiley College was considered a debate team powerhouse, they had taken on mostly other historically black colleges and universities such as Howard and Tuskegee. To debate USC, the students from Wiley College then endured extreme racism and discrimination, but in the end, they beat USC. This year marks the 78th anniversary of this historic debate, and we are all excited to see this wonderful reenactment later today. Now, it's my honor to bring to the microphone Dr. Carter, Executive Vice President and the Provost of Wiley College, to say a few words.
Mr. Price, before we bring up the good doctor, I just want to say that we're so excited to have you here. What Wiley College did 70 years ago, I think, opened doors for many people throughout this country. And we're just so excited to have you here. And who knows, if it wasn't for Wiley College, I might not be sitting in this chair.
Amen.
So, Doctor, please come forward. Give the doctor a round of applause.
Thank you so much, Councilman President Wesson. On behalf of our president, Dr. Haywood L. Strickland, and the entire Wiley College family, we are so grateful to you for having us here and giving us this esteemed honor today. I would like for you to hear from our coach, who hails from Los Angeles, California, and the two students who will be representing Wiley College this evening at the debate at the exhibition debate with USC. Again, thank you so very much for the warm welcome that you have given us upon our arrival here.
You're welcome. Coach, come forward. An Angelino, huh?
Yes. Council President Wesson, Councilman Price, we thank you for the great honor in allowing us to be here to represent Wiley College. It is true, I am a native Angelino. As a matter of fact, I was born at USC Medical Center, though I won't hold it against them. We're very, very proud of what this exhibition debate represents. These individuals who came to California to debate against USC were the predecessors of the Civil Rights Movement. As a matter of fact, James Farmer Jr. was one of the members of the debate team, who is one of the pinnacles of the Civil Rights Movement. And so I agree with you, and you may be right, that many of us may not be here if Wiley had not made that journey 78 years ago. And so we are proud to make it again today. Council President, I'd like to introduce to you the two debaters who are going to be debating USC tonight. Nathan Leal, who hails from the Bay Area, Union City, California, and Lyle Kleinman, who hails from Bakersfield, California.
Let's give it up for these young people, the leaders of tomorrow. Welcome.
It's really great to be here, and I gotta say it's an honor just to be standing here today. And these are the kind of opportunities that Wiley College allows and presents to the new student body. And that, for me, is something that I will never let go of and always be proud of. And as an aspiring politician, this is an amazing opportunity in and of itself. And there you go. But being able to stand on those shoulders of giants who laid down the very foundations which led to all of the changes that we see around us today is something that's monumental. And again, there's no pressure today for this debate. I mean, only 80 years of history, but by far an amazing experience. Thank you.
Well, sir, I think you definitely, in those few minutes, demonstrated that you have what it takes to be a leader. I'm just requesting in advance, when you return to Los Angeles, you do not come to the district that I represent. Go to someone else's district. Anyway, good luck to you in your future.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Hi, my name is Lyle Kleinman. I'm from Bakersfield, California, and I would like to extend the thanks about us being here. It means a world of opportunity and importance to be here and know that we are being able to commemorate not only our school, but our staff and this program. Like they said before, the opportunities that we're getting to speak in front of you all and actually carry this out is something that we wouldn't have had if it had not been for the original debaters in 1935. Something that inspired me on the way being here was reading an article from Hobart Jarrett, and he wrote about the adventure and the trip that they had here. Though you get jet lag, we're from Texas, and so it's a little bit of difficulties. It's nothing like the people that laid the groundwork in the first trip. Being able to be here and speak before you all and have this opportunity to not only represent our school but represent what has happened here means the world to me and means the world to our squad. Even those who don't have the opportunity to speak and those back at home, this is absolutely monumentous. And we thank you for giving us this opportunity because it's more than just, a rivalry or a debate. It's expanding the education that we have to the people and the change that we can make. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Price. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Doc. And thank you, students.
Thank you, Mr. President. And on behalf of the City Council and the entire City of Los Angeles, we want to just recognize October the 25th, 2013 as the official date of the Wiley College and SC Exhibition debate. And we are honored to recognize you and welcome to our city.
Thank you.
Again, welcome to Los Angeles. Thank you for being here. Okay, Ms. Martinez, we're going to move to, wait a moment till the students clear out, but we're going to move to your item 12, and I think I have one or two cards on. I have Mr. Sachs. This is on item 12. Mr. Sachs.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I will only take 1 minute here. Again, I really have no problems per se with this item, except the fact that the city has introduced an ordinance to work with franchises to pick up trash throughout the city, and why these aren't franchised operators to pick up the material that is generated through the Bureau of Street Services citywide operation just doesn't make sense. Why you differentiate between what's picked up basically on public property by private companies and what's picked up at city yards by public company. Just the next question, and if there would be more money available through a franchise system than is through this bidding system.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. If I could request that Mr. John Walsh, I have a card on John, and Mr. Akala, are you still here? I have a card on you as well.
Step out to the men's room.
We're not waiting.
Mr. Walsh.
Okay. John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. 20,000 server requests in the last 3 days. Okay, this concerns a letter of agreement between the city and 6 contractors recycling disposal of inert materials, mixed inert materials. Okay, most of this work is usually done in minority areas, as you know. Any dirty work is done in minority areas. We know there are 2 cities, west of La Brea and east of La Brea. And as far as these, my favorite company, you're giving money to Looney Bins. Looney Bins, downtown Divergent, a waste management company. But I'd like to finish by saying, you do a very good job of waste management, the city, and particularly the city council, which does a good job of managing BS, which is waste. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Ms. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this item before us today, I had asked that we continue it this week, as I had requested to speak to the Bureau of Street Services regarding some concerns with Mr. De La Cruz. If you can come forward and explain to us what is being requested of us today.
Good morning, council members. What you have before you today are 6 letters of agreement allowing the Bureau to continue to deliver inert debris from our cleaning and construction activities to various disposal facilities throughout fiscal year 13-14. The aggregate amount of these contracts is $5 million that have been budgeted in the city's budget process.
So the concern that I have is that nowhere in the CAO report or the Bureau's report to the Public Works Commission that we didn't lay out information in terms of the operational, what does that mean? The operational integrity of some of these contracts regarding their environmental existing regulations, permits, or violations. So when I met with you during the week, I'd asked if there was an opportunity to be able to incorporate some sort of moving forward in some of the bidders that come before us. And as you're preparing the reports for the City Council and the Public Works Commission, can you incorporate some of this information that we're going to need as decision makers to be able to make the appropriate decision?
Absolutely. Concurrent with the action that you have before you today, we are releasing a request for bid. We hope to have that in place in a few months. Within that bid, we will incorporate standard provisions in accordance with the Contractor Responsibility Ordinance that requires contractors doing business with the city to disclose any violations of state, federal, or local laws.
So as you know, a lot of the contractors are in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. Some of them are in Councilmember Fuentes' district or Mr. Krikorian's district, and so we are inundated with a lot of these facilities in our districts. So whenever as for me, whenever you're asking me to vote on something to award a contract to a company, I need to have all the adequate information before I make my decision. And so I hope that moving forward, I like our conversation during the week. I appreciate that. The commitment moving forward is that we're going to get the pertinent information to be able to make an adequate decision on some of these contracts moving forward. And I hope other departments do the same thing as well.
We will include that information in the bid. It'll be part of the evaluation, and it'll also be part of the reports that move forward both to our Board of Public Works and to the full City Council for approval.
Thank you, Mr. De La Cruz. I'd like to move and approve this item and proceed with forthwith, Mr. President.
Okay, now I had called Mr. Alcala earlier. You were out of the chambers. Did you still want to speak on this item, sir? You're welcome. Okay, Mr. Alcala passes on this item. So members, let us, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, thank you. Forthwith, item 7. We move to item 7. Mr. Sachs, Mr. Alcala, don't go far on item 7. I have a card from you. In fact, Juan, Mr. Alcala, I have 2 cards from you. Mr. Walsh, item 7.
1 minute.
Okay,
And Mr. President, we do have amending motion 7A, which is before council for its consideration.
Okay, so Mr. Sachs, you want to? Mr. Sachs is passing. Mr. Alcala, please come forward, sir.
Innovation, Technology, and General Services Committee report relative to the acquiring the property located at 4 Signor Gallery Street, Gaffey Street in San Pedro for the development of Phase 2 of the Gaffey Welcome Park. It's all right, but for me, housing people is more important than building parks. So you can do whatever you want to, but why don't we think about housing people first and giving them parks later? Wouldn't that be cool?
Mr. President, he's not talking about this item.
I know. Okay. Juan, get back on the... Mr. Buscaino?
Yes, thank you. This item before you, colleagues, is very exciting for the San Pedro community. This piece of property is the last thing you see leaving San Pedro. And we, with then Councilwoman Janice Hahn, made huge efforts on our Welcome Park as you enter San Pedro. This piece of property has been blighted for many, many, many years. In fact, I'm joined by Anna Dragon, who was then the San Pedro field deputy at the time this was proposed. So I asked for your aye vote, and I ask for a Tom Labange forthwith, a super urgent forthwith on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, forthwith. The next item before us is item 1. And so we have cards on item 1. Mr. Herman, if you please come forward. I have, I believe, Elizabeth Peterson, Juan Acala, and John Walsh.
And Mr. President, we do have motion 1A that has been circulated and is now before council for consideration.
All righty then. Mr. Herman?
Absolutely. Los Angeles residents, you constituents, we're talking about on-site alcohol sales. A hearing relative to the application for determining whether or not it's convenience for the public to indulge in alcohol on an on-site fiesta, party. Even Mr. Weezer is not even here. And it's a great subject to talk about when you talk about alcohol. And don't get me wrong, folks, drinking's okay, but in moderation. Alcoholism can kill. Alcoholism affects all our lives. And we're all impacted by it, whether it's us personally or a family member, right, Mr. Weezer? But going back to the topic, we see here that for the public's convenience, it is necessary for alcohol sales for this site, for the consumption of the Grandpa Johnson Lounge located in Cahuenga Boulevard. Cahuenga Boulevard, how many more liquor stores do they have and don't need? But yet, here now it's going into a lounge. And who's going out there to say, wait a minute, the city keeps giving all these permits for alcohol over and over and over. And I'm pretty positive in your study, if you do a study and allow the constituents here to speak about alcoholism, they will agree. Alcoholism is a horrible way to start a business that we already have going. So to conclude, in my last 6 seconds, Mr. Weezer, you should be fired.
No, you stay on the subject. Okay, Elizabeth Peterson, please come forward, followed by Mr. Acala. And Mr. Walsh, you have 1 minute, I've been informed, so you can make your way down. Ms. Peterson?
Good morning, council members. Thank you for hearing me today. I wanted to let you know that the subject site has an active conditional use permit under ZA 99-0605 CUB. The subject site has an active license for the past 30 years. It's part of the Cahuenga corridor, and it's a very vibrant area of Hollywood. And this location is being restored by a wonderful operator, Mr. Johnny Zander, who operated the Roosevelt Hotel for several years. He's restoring the site to its original 1905 condition, and I think it will be a wonderful and historic hospitality venue in Hollywood. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Juan, Mr. Acala?
Well, people out on the street always think that I am drunk, and guess what? I haven't drunk since I don't drink since I was 28, and I'm 64 now. But guess what? You keep saying alcohol is okay, but say no to drugs. I was a teacher for 20 years telling the kids, say no to drugs, but you sell them alcohol in every street corner. Alcohol is not a drug. See, there's a huge discrepancy on what you say and what you do, always. I say we need to unify thinking so that we understand what's good and what's bad. Alcohol is not good. And this lady defends alcohol because she makes money out of it. And it's all about money. It's not about people. You see? So, where do we stand? Do we stand on the side of the people or on the side of the money? It seems to be that we're standing on the side of money every time over people. People need housing. They don't need any more alcohol.
Thank you, Mr. Acala. Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Well, let's take a look at this. It says, application filed by Grandpa Johnson, care of Jonathan Alexander, Representative Elizabeth Peterson. Ms. Peterson got up here and argued and lobbied. Now, I'm asking the Ethics Commission, is Ms. Peterson a registered lobbyist? If she is not a registered lobbyist, she has violated the law. You don't give a damn about the law. People come up here, lobbyists, informal lobbyists, anybody. King Alcohol. And I'm telling you, to everybody out there, the next person who's run over on the street and killed by a hit-and-run driver, I will pay $1,000 to the family if there's not alcohol level, drunk alcohol level in the bloodstream of hit-and-run drivers. And you're the responsibility for it. What garbage.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Thank you. Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right. Mr. Koretz, I'm going to, where is this your staff guy? Or here, would you take this to Mr. Koretz? Did I leave the card on it? The city council was given a box of candy from PETA. Maybe you would share it with those of us that have a sweet tooth. Okay, thank you. So the next item, Mr. Clerk, I believe is number 2, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, sir.
Okay, and we do have a few cards on this item. We do have Mr. Sachs, followed by constituent, and I believe Mr. Walsh, he's out of time, the clerk's office informs me. So, Arnold, Mr. Sachs, if you would come forward, followed by constituent. Yes, Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. President. A pipeline franchise for transportation of crude oil. One city's name, San Remo, where a pipeline blew up. So is there a liability clause involved in here? Now, it says the minimum payment would be $500. That's not going to happen. Again, in today's newspaper, new website makes LA finances more accessible.
Yep.
And the controller points out that you have data available to the city, the public, on how the City Hall collects and spends billions of dollars. So I'm wondering, on this new website, are franchise oil fees available to the public so they know, well, wait, that's not really City Hall money, that's City Council district money. And you may say, well, City Council district, City Hall. There is a difference. And the funds that go into the City Council districts are not considered revenue for City Hall. If you listen to any part of the budget discussions, all the revenue that came through, all the revenue that was discussed, the bus bench revenue, the pipeline revenue, AB 1290 revenue, all those different revenue sources are not included in the city budget unless the City Council waives those funds out of their district. So in this new financial website that's been promoted by the controller, I'm asking that he include those different funds that go to the City Council offices. You ask for the neighborhood councils to step up and do work. They should get a share of that money. They're entitled to a share of that money. They're in those neighborhood councils. They're in your city council districts.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. So I think we have Mr. Constituent.
Present. Again, another idea that does not make sense. The liability, the negligence that can come out of this, the result, and who does it impact? You, the constituents. We, the constituents, pay for this if it gets out of control when this pipeline bursts and injures the lives of the residents and all of you in Los Angeles where this pipeline's at. Are you aware of that? Do you take and step back to ask the questions? Well, let's do a scientific study as to whether this is going to be appropriate or not, so that we don't incur a problem in the future. It's bad enough the pipes in our communities are bursting. We got holes in our streets, and yet this one talks about placing it where? Relative notice to the sale for a pipeline. Where did I find this at? On the right-of-way. On the right-of-way. You know how much trouble and cost that's going to get into in detail? Why can't we find a different route, or even better, just stop the project and do a study? Do an actual study where the constituents that are impacted by this, those people who are out there, businesses are impacted by this, and let's allow them to comment on whether or not this pipeline is a good idea, a better idea, and will it work? Go ahead, City Clerk, continue talking while I speak. So Herman, getting back to the subject, I'm against it. And if you listen to Arnold Sachs, he's pretty much right. But on a passive point, because I care less, obviously you don't care about the residents of the city, because if you did, you would take more considerable time to a situation such as this pipeline being in the medium of a street or a road, or even a sidewalk.
Thank you, Mr. Constituent. Okay, let's vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, now, Mr. Clerk, before we go into the special, I'm going to take 3 general public comment cards: Raul Claros, Arnold Sachs, and followed by Mr. Walsh. So, Raul, if you could come forward. Mr. Sachs, begin to make your way down, and Mr. Walsh. Yes, Mr. Claros.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, City Council members, City Attorney's Office. I'm here today to just inform the City of Los Angeles of a press conference that will be held on November 7th in front of the East LA Courthouse regarding the Dahan mortuary case. Dahan mortuary case has been going and lingering for about 3 years. We have met with Mr. Kochek. We have met with Mr. Shefford. At this point, they have decided to, unless we find anything between now and the 7th, to present a case that is politically safe. For who, I don't know, but it is not a case that the people of Los Angeles, especially the people of Pico Union, have asked them, which are the people that pay the taxes, that pays their salaries, to present. We are simply asking Mr. Kochek and Mr. Shefford once again to pull the county documents from the LA County Health Department so that they can continue to see what we have continued to show them, that they continue to operate illegally without the proper permits. There have been over 40 violations since July 3rd when a sentencing order was presented by the courts. So I don't know who oversees the city attorney's office. I don't know if it's the controllers, but there will be a formal complaint sent in. If I'm going to step on toes and upset anyone for that, I'm just being transparent, because that's what the Lord has put me here to do, is to do my ministry. And I am here to again ask, plead, maybe demand. I don't know how many more cliches we have to use here to ask people to do their due diligence and stop asking me why is it that I'm doing what I am doing. There is no hidden agenda here. If Pico Union does not stand up for itself, it will be eaten up by Koreatown, by LA Live, and by USC. At least LA Live and USC is at the table talking to us about master plans. I don't know what else is going on, though, but I hope we can see you guys on the 7th.
Thank you. Your ministry, Raul, you're going to have to call me. Okay, Mr. Sachs, followed by Mr. Walsh.
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Followed by Sid.
Good
Go
morning.
ahead, Arnold.
Good morning.
Start his time all over.
I do sometimes suffer from dyslexia. So when I read this headline from the Daily Breeze, LAOK's ban on bull, elephant hooks to follow, because that's when you had the discussion regarding ethics. But it's actually LAOK's ban on elephant bull hooks. And so I'm thinking to myself, A and B, you had a 3-year moratorium on implementing the ordinance that you discussed, but that was within the parameters of not having to reopen public discussion, which is somewhat of a little bit of bull. And I'm thinking about some other things regarding ethics, because that discussion really dealt with donations to political races. And from a public point of view, I'm looking at ethics in a different way. This is a motion that was put together by Representative Blumenfield and Paul Krikorian. Over the last several years, and which from October 18, 2013, the city has been subject to significant budget constraints caused by the recession, requiring the city to focus on short-term financial goals at the expense of long-term objectives. Yet in some of the stories that have come out recently regarding city council staff, we find that one of the workers had her salary in 2012 at $112,000. In 2013, it jumped to $132,000. That's a pay raise of between 17 and 20%. So when you talk about economic budget constraints and you're giving staff members cookies like 17 to 20%, I got to wonder about ethics. Talk about those ethics instead of talking about public disclosure.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Thank you, and have a good weekend. Mr. John Walsh, followed by Sid. And when you get up here, Sid, say your last name for me so I can treat you respectfully. Mr.
Anniversary, blow my own horn. It's my birthday.
Happy birthday, Mr. Sachs. Happy birthday. Enjoy it. Don't ask him out. Mr. Sachs is 39 and holding.
I'm 70 years old and proud of every damn year of it.
Mr. Walsh.
We do have at least one honest city councilman right here, Mike Hernandez. Always been honest. Never, did I ever attack you once, ever? Okay, let's start with our website. A lawsuit has been filed, sexual harassment, against Mr. Lee, the chief deputy in Englander's office. He should be placed on administrative leave. Now, who is Madam X? Who is Jane Doe? Everybody knows it, but there's only one place you can find her picture and one place you can find her name, and that's at J. Walsh Confidential or at HollywoodHighlands.org. And people are saying, well, she's so gorgeous that Lee and Englander couldn't resist themselves. Typical sexism. And even the scumbags at the LA Times, that's Robert Greene, who at editorial, said it's a frat house atmosphere. That's an insult to every college student. Sexual harassment does not happen as a regular course at frat houses. It only happens among you scumbags, you sexist scumbags. And I want you to know that they all, I'm not counting Ms. Martinez, all of the other men have a circle around the wagon, and they are protecting the sexism. Thanks to somebody who brought a camera and a cell phone in, we heard what Herb Wesson said at the big Weezer $750 a seat meeting. He got up there and he said, "Herb Wesson is my best friend." And off camera, he said, "This bitch will never get a dime from us." Okay. But on camera, what he said was, it's incredible. He said, I trust Herb, I trust Weezer with my life. Or maybe I'm hard of hearing. Maybe you said, I trust Weezer with my wife. Either way, you're in for a big surprise.
You should watch yourself. My wife was here a few minutes ago, Mr. Walsh. Okay, Sid, followed by Bobby Cooper.
Good morning,
Wait,
council
Bobby, I think I see you in the back. Yes, now give me that last name again,
Good
Sid.
morning, council members. Sid Maksudian.
Maksudian?
Correct.
Okay.
First of all, I just want to shed a better light than what I've been hearing so far. I'd like to thank Mr. Buscaino, Cedillo, Mr. Price, which they chaired the Public Works Commission, and regarding the pilot program that we had an understanding. I also like to thank Mr. Huizar and his staff, especially Sarah Hernandez, and that she's working diligently on this, and also Mr. Schlesinger. We had an understanding on that motion. That motion went through. As of, just to inform the council, that on the 8th of this month, we submitted the B permit for the construction, at least the beginning stages, to the city, the plans. And as of yesterday, I've handed copies to Huizar's office for them to have the actual submission of that particular plans, so they will have a full view of what's going to transpire. And hopefully that we can move forward. I cannot thank enough his office, his staff, and everyone that's involved pushing this forward. And while I was doing this project, basically, I've noticed that in that same alley, we have an epidemic of smoking, heavy smoking, and heavy littering of buds in that alley. So I've got in contacted with the police department and also the health department, and I'm taking the initiative to ask the councilman's office to show some direction, and the council itself, since this ordinance has passed since 2010, but the enforcement part of it, the LAPD, is not aware how to approach. I gave them some tips, I gave them some literature, and I kind of approached them to be forceful on this, because it will make our job easy to have a better alley and rejuvenate it in a healthy environment. So it's a win-win if the council's office and this council will help me to show some direction to LAPD.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Bobby Cooper, come forward. Mr. Akala, if you would come, and after Mr. Akala, is Richard Robinson here? Well, we'll look for him. But Mr. Cooper, why don't you start off?
Yes,
and then
my
we'll
name
have
is Mr. Bobby Cooper. Please, you look at this. This is my brother, beat to death. And I know who did it. There were two African-American Burbank police officers lied about the what's the name. Besides that, the coroner's report is a lie. They took all their organs out of his body, sold them possibly, you know. Now it's me. It's me. I'm at a rest home, been in 3, 4, 5, 6 mental institutions. This is what they do to you. This is it. This is where I'm at now. They got me, the county has me marked for a mortuary. You understand? I don't know these people. I don't know these Oriental doctors. I don't know these Oriental nurses. They claim they're my family, some of them. You understand? Half of these disadmission papers are not. They say they
Mr. President, I don't believe he's talking about something within the jurisdiction of the city.
This is public comments.
Okay.
I only have a few minutes.
Okay, come on, Bobby. Stay on the subject that anything the city can deal with.
On this admission slips, it says that I was admitted on the 6th, discharged on the 7th, discharged 7/6, discharged 7/11. You understand? They have $1,600 of mine, your police officers out there cutting up. They're in this place 24 hours a day. My adversaries have bought them maybe 15 new iPods to keep check on me. I can't go to the bathroom. You understand? My civil rights are being violated. I'm calling on the FBI from Washington, D.C. to stand in because I don't have enough time to even explain on this public access TV the horror and the tragedy of this situation, all for money, our money. I want my wife back. I've asked, well, I don't know where my mother's body is or my wife is, child is for a year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Mr. Akala, followed by Richard Robinson, who I see in the back. Yes, Mr. Akala.
Did everybody get my card? They were supposed to. I gave you 35 cards. It says, put an end to homelessness.
I will look for the cards, Mr. Akala.
Well, you were supposed to have them on your desk. right now? Huh? Oh, there it is.
Okay, so we do have them.
Oh, okay.
So go ahead.
Well, that is our basic mission here. If you're, what you say, a very futuristic thinking body, you claim that the wind blows from the west to the east, and that everything that you do is based on futuristic thinking. Let's think about this. Creating a parallel system where nobody has a landlord anymore. Changing the laws of real estate so we get all the greedy mongers out of real estate, basic real estate. Now, if you happen to create something great, you can go ahead and build your castle. But if you're just an average Joe like myself, let us have a home without a landlord and start a new way of doing society. See, we've been doing it in a way that is not working. A lot of people are becoming homeless and more homeless and more homeless. And even if you have a motor home, they kick you out of it. They tell you you gotta go sleep on the sidewalk because it's illegal to sleep in your motor home. So everything you do is to drive everybody homeless. Why don't we do it backwards? Why don't we give everybody a home and then start all over?
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Richard Robinson.
Mr. President, members, my granddad fought in the First World War. My father island hopped with MacArthur, Iwo Jima, Truk, Solomon Islands, Guadalcanal. He was at Okinawa. A few good men standing next to General Douglas MacArthur Marine contingent there. I'm very proud of my family's history. I have a first cousin who won the Silver Star in Vietnam. I'm a former Air Force administrative specialist, one of Eisenhower's troops. I like to feel that I was kind of selected because of my family's military history. I met President Eisenhower, former President Eisenhower, in 1951 during a campaign trip across the country when I was about 10 years old. The war in Afghanistan is going to come to an end. President Obama has said that. When the war ends, I sense that we will not be at war anymore. American troops are going to be not deployed to fight in foreign lands. No American boots on the floor, on the ground, because the President of the United States of America knows that we cannot be sucked into a war. For example, in Kenya, in Syria, that's what our enemies would like. Psych the United States military into another 10-year war like that in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and Vietnam. So what am I saying? Consider after the war ends the peace dividend that will come. Thank you.
Brian Barajas. Brian.
I think what Richard fails to realize is that thermonuclear World War III is on the way. Now, on Tuesday, Turkey, Ben Faisal, at a national council on U.S. and Arab relations, denounced our General Martin Dempsey for not starting World War III. How insulting is this Saudi kingdom, which Chris Van Hollen, a Democratic representative from Maryland, said that the Saudis are funding Al-Qaeda in Syria. And the President of the United States is going along with that crap. So he is Al-Qaeda's commander-in-chief. So that's treason. Okay, now, since we're talking about deadly serious effects of thermonuclear World War III, which means extinction, I think that is a very serious cause for this president to be removed immediately. So everybody who gives, if they look into the future, we won't have one. We need Glass-Steagall. We need to really shut down this whole economic collapse, this whole financial sideshow of just madness. So if you really want to save mankind, and we can do that, then everybody here has to do what has to be done in order to remove this president from office. And if anybody's wondering what I think of George Bush or the Bush family, they supported and put Hitler into power. So damn the Bushes.
Before our next speaker, I want to salute the Angelinas who did such a great job in the red jackets back from the day of Mayor Bradley. There you are right there. Sit down, please, Mr. Herman. Thank you so much. Give our Angelinas a big hand. Thank you, and our special guest. Thank you. And Mr. Constituent, now also known as Mr. Herman, please.
Team Weezer, is this an endorsement? Is this your endorsement? What about the city charter or the special committee process? When you're a manager, you do not have any type of relationship, whether it's sexual, joking, with your staff. Now what Villaraigosa did, to correct you, was that was personal. But when you have interrelationships within a company, as a manager, administrator, it's very tricky and inappropriate. Wrong, wrong, wrong. The allegations are serious and they have to be, what? Impartial and thoroughly investigated? Absolutely. Right, Mr. Englander? Investigated.
Mr. President, he should direct his comments to the council as a whole.
I forgot. Going back on topic. I know this is highly inappropriate, and so do all of you. So do you, Los Angeles. So when it's for re-election, I say you lost my endorsement and you lose my vote. On top of that, anyone endorsing this behavior is ignorant to the moral and ethics involved. Resign your action as an administrator, Mr. Weezer. Demonstrate how ethical and principled you can be to step down. The behavior is a responsibility of you, for you have failed this local government, this agency, and you denied the people in your community the reality of what's appropriate and the conduct of an administrator, elected official. And to conclude, this is not the same as an affair from the mayor that was a personal matter. It did not involve the public employee over whom Weezer, on the other hand, has a power. It's different because Councilman Weezer held and has the power to promote, demote, and fire. Good luck.
Mr. Clerk, that completes public comment, where public could make any comment on any matter. Next item.
Mr. President, that brings council to its special meeting. Would council like to adjourn the regular and go into the special?
Recess the regular.
Excuse me.
Recess
thank you
the
very
regular.
much. Recess. Very good, sir. Blumenfield, Bonham, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Huizar, Carrasco, Corcoran, Labange, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Wesson. 14 members present and a quorum, Mr. President. On today's agenda, item 14 is an item for which public hearing has not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
For consideration, please. Over the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
14 ayes. Okay. It's before us right now. I have two cards. Arnold Sachs is on his way to Lenox. He did leave the building. John Walsh is still here. Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Mickey's Point of View, new one right up there on the front page of HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential. Always a pleasure to speak in front of my former councilman, Tom LaBonge. I wish we could have you for another 4 years. Of course,
Mr. President,
that's another story.
This item.
He can handle it himself, Dion. He can handle it. He's running the meeting, not you. Okay, final map of track number 714419, property located South Park West, South Century Park West. Quimby fee, $41,000. That means the amount of money that that gets diverted from this, which goes to parks. Remember, Quimby fees are state-mandated money on these transactions that must be dedicated to parks, usually in white neighborhoods. Applicant CW Estates, fine. Brian Gentry, fine. I don't need the 2 minutes. I'm not up here to pleasure myself. Sometimes you do a good job. If you want to see something, go to HollywoodHighlands.org.
Okay, that completes the public comment on it. There's no other cards. I have no other cards, Mr. Clerk. I called Mr. Sachs. I don't have a card for Mr. Herman. Do you have a card for Mr. Herman? Mr. Herman, do you want to comment on the... You don't have a card. 2 cards. Thank you. There's no other cards. Completes the public comment. Thank you, Mr. Herman. No comment. Thank you. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
14 ayes. Next item.
Very good, sir. We'll adjourn the special and return to the regular.
Return to the regular. So ordered. What's in front of us now?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
So ordered.
The desk is clear.
Desk is good. Members, any announcements? Any announcements? Yes, Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple, some good community events in CD11 this weekend where my staff and I will be doing open community office hours. Tomorrow morning in Del Rey, we'll be doing office hours at the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf at 13420 Maxella from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Also be doing them at the Palisades Halloween Spooktacular at the Palisades Rec Center tomorrow from 3 to 7 p.m. And at the Brentwood Art Fair Sunday morning from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's on San Vicente in between Bundy and Darlington.
Mr. Buscaino.
If I may, join Mr. Fuentes and I tomorrow here at City Hall for the Buddy Walk, raising awareness of Down syndrome here, 1 p.m. Everyone's welcome. Please bring your friends and loved ones. Tomorrow, South Lawn at 1 p.m. Thank you.
Mr. Cedillo, we thank you. There's always something going on in the 1st District. Thank you so much. Mr. Englander.
Yes, tonight I will be attending the Valley of the Stars dance-off. I will not be dancing, however, but Councilmember Dennis Zine and former Councilmember and Wendy Gruhl will be dancing this evening, and so that should be very exciting. And then Sunday, I'll leave all the humor to you guys. Sunday is a West Hills Festival at Shadow Ranch Park. We'll be out there as well, and look forward to that event. Thank you.
Members, any more announcements? Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you. Colleagues, tomorrow I'm having one of my monthly community walks in North Atwater Village. We're going to meet at Chevy Chase Park at 9:30, and I welcome anyone who would like to go door to door and promote the level of services that the city has to offer to my constituents in North Atwater Village. You're welcome. I also want to announce that we have the LAPD Northeast open house tomorrow at the station on San Fernando Road. And it's an open house supporting the neighborhood, the community, all the wonderful services that our Northeast Division provides. And that begins at 9 a.m. at Northeast Division. I hope to see you all there.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. And I know the good work that you've done at Northeast, because they're going to break ground, I think, next year on the new station right on that same site. And when they're out there at North Atwater Park, check out those tree trimming trucks. We could relocate and expand that park. Good, Mr. O'Farrell. Good job. Mr. Bonin.
So I forgot one. Mr. O'Farrell reminded me the West LA police station is having not an open house, but a haunted house Saturday night at the police garage on Butler Avenue from 6 to 9 p.m. So please come check that out, too.
Thank you very much. And on Sunday on Larchmont Boulevard in the village. It's their annual family fair, family day on Larchmont Boulevard. Come out and enjoy in the booth. Seeing no more announcements that we have here right now, we have adjourning motions. Sergeants, please prepare the chambers. All rise for adjourning motion. Councilmember Blumenfield.
Thank you. I rise today to adjourn in the motion of Cy Maxwell, who passed away just this Wednesday, October 23rd. He was a good friend, a mentor, and I was honored to serve on the Valley Anti-Defamation League with him. He was born on April 5th, 1929 in Brooklyn, New York, and at the age of 11, his family moved to Coral Gables, Florida. However, after 1 year in which Cy witnessed several acts of racial hatred and anti-Semitism, including when his father lost his business as a result of the town's residents refusing to do business with Jews, they moved back to New York. Since then, Cy has never forgotten the hatred, bigotry, and anti-Semitism. In fact, it was in his service to fighting anti-Semitism that I first met Cy over a decade ago. We served together on the board and on the executive board of the Anti-Defamation League here in Los Angeles. And when I was the chair of the Valley Anti-Defamation League Advisory Board, he really helped re-energize that board and move good programs in the Valley. He received the ADL's most prestigious honor when he was awarded its 2007 Humanitarian Award. He met his lovely wife of over 53 years, Charlotte, at a dance mixer at Temple Beth Am in West Los Angeles. They celebrated their wedding on January 10th, 1954 at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. In 1955, he opened a single-person independent insurance agency from his Crenshaw apartment. 45 years later, with nearly 70 employees, TriWest Insurance was sold and a newly formed national firm was created. He has an admirable history of service to both the insurance industry as well as many charitable organizations. As far as the insurance side of things, he was a board member of the Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers Association, IBA West. He chaired its Government Affairs Committee, served as president of the San Fernando Valley chapter. He was also a Jewish Big Brother for 10 years, a Little League baseball manager, and for 30 years, he and his wife were both active in the City of Hope 500 Club, where Cy served as president. He was also the founder of the Insurance Council for the City of Hope and a vice president and board member of the Boys and Girls Club in Pacoima for 9 years. He was also what's known as the Kings of the Valley Jesters, which is part of the Caballero Country Club, which he was very involved with for many years and served on their board of directors. His most treasured asset, of course, was his family. He and his wife, Charlotte, are devoted parents to Leslie, Bruce, Robin, Tracy, and grandparents to 10 children, not over 10. They've been active members of Valley Beth Shalom Synagogue in Encino for over 37 years. His funeral is actually going on as we speak. Cy, may you rest in peace.
What a great man. Members, Mr. Fuentes.
Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to adjourn in memory of Juanita Rodriguez. Juanita was born in 1922 in Fresnillo, Zacatecas, Mexico. And she grew up there, attended school there, and in 1938 she married Luis Rodriguez. They had 14 children, 11 of them which survived. And like many of the families in my community, including my own, the family temporarily separated while Luis worked as a bracero here in the United States. But fortunately, they were able to survive that. And in 1965, she and her children reunited with Luis in Van Nuys, where they lived in Van Nuys initially, and then 3 years later bought their very first home in Pacoima, where they lived for 43 years, and it's where Juanita passed. Juanita worked as a seamstress, like many of the people in our community did, and Juanita played the role as mother and father for much of the time that the family had to endure that progress to the United States. Juanita, in the course of all of that hard work, volunteered not just at church, but also volunteered at Mend, where she acted as a seamstress and made clothes for those less fortunate than they. In addition to that work, she was very active in the church. She worked and cooked for the church as well at Mary Immaculate, where I was baptized and many of our community celebrates. Over the years, she continued to be a real role model. She passed on October 5th and was laid to rest on October 11th. Juanita is survived by her husband, Luis, their 11 children, their 29 grandchildren, and 25 great-grandchildren. She was very proud of her granddaughters who were in the United States military, and she was proud of everybody as well, but in particular those who were serving the country. And it's safe to say that she pretty much had represented every profession that her family had as well. She was an amazing woman, and she will be dearly missed by her family, friends, and our community.
Well, St. Peter just let her right in. No waiting when she got to the gates. Mr. Buscaino.
Amen to that. Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, it's with tremendous sadness that I ask that we adjourn in memory of Kelsey Faith Potts, who suddenly passed away on October 18th. She was only 13 years old. Kelsey was born on March 15, 2000, and was an 8th grader at Dotson Middle School in San Pedro. She loved her Lord Jesus Christ, her family, soccer, and unicorns, and many who knew her during her short 13 years. It said that Kelsey touched many people and her friends with her bright smile, her warm heart, and kind words. She is survived by her loving parents, Troy and Jill, sisters Lindsay and Jenna, grandparents Dan and Elisa Potts, and Wayne and Carolyn Oberpaletter, as well as numerous aunts, uncles, cousins, and a multitude of friends. The celebration of Kelsey's life will be held tomorrow, 10:30, at Rolling Hills Covenant Church. May Kelsey Potts rest in peace.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you. I have 3 adjourning motions that ask that we adjourn in memory of George R. Economidis, who was born in L.A. on October 7th, 1937. Passed away October 17, 2013. George was the husband of Ida for 47 years and had a loving identical twin brother, Michael, for 76 years. George was adored by his children, Christina and Sasha, and he had 2 treasured grandchildren, Marie Elena and Grayson. After his football days of fame at Loyola High School, George became the founding player and storied legendary Los Angeles area flag football team known as the Dwarfs. Funeral Mass was held at 2 p.m. Tuesday, October 22nd at Christ of Kings Church on Rossmore. We'd also ask that the council adjourn in memory of A.J. Kirby Sr., who was born December 18th, 1930 in Italy, Texas, and died October 17, 2013. He's a graduate of Milford High School and a proud veteran of the U.S. Air Force. After his military service, he moved to Los Angeles. In 1962, he was employed by Chrysler Corporation at his plant in the City of Commerce. When the plant closed early 1970s, he was laid off and started his own trucking business, K&B Express. He operated the trucking firm until he was called back to Chrysler in the 1980s. He worked as a parts distributor center in Fullerton until his retirement. While at Chrysler, he became the president of United Auto Workers Local 230. In 1991, he was part of the national contract negotiating team bargaining a new contract for UAW workers. He was also a volunteer football and basketball coach and survived by a host of family members. His services are scheduled for Saturday, October 26 at 2:30 at Community Missionary Baptist Church in DeSoto, Texas. The last one is council adjourned in memory of Stephen Falk, who was born in June 1952, passed away October 7, 2013. He attended Holy Name of Jesus School from kindergarten through the 8th grade. He was confirmed in the Catholic Church as a teenager at St. Bernadette's Catholic School. In 1970, he graduated from Hamilton High School and then went on to West Los Angeles High School, where he graduated in 1972. Stephen met his wife Sheila in 71 while attending college. On June 1977, they were married at Holman United Methodist Church. In February 1980, his son Stephen was born, and later his daughter Monique. Stephen's passion for life and care of others was one of his biggest joys. He was intensely dedicated sergeant with LAPD. He began his career as an Explorer Scout with LAPD as a teenager and entered the police academy in 1973. On April 1st, 1984, Stephen was promoted to sergeant, and on June 1989, he was promoted to Sergeant 2. While with LAPD, he received over 100 commendations for his great performance. He was passionate about making a difference in the community and served throughout Los Angeles during his 40 years with the department. Stephen strived to be the finest police officer he could be. He was well known as a practical joker. In addition, he had a strong work ethic and a good sense of humor. He also participated in events for the department such as the Baker to Vegas Run and Bike Ride at Ensenada Park. Stephen was survived by his wife Sheila and their 2 children. Funeral service was held on October 18th.
Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I ask that we adjourn today in memory of an extraordinary woman and pioneering member of our Westwood Village business community, Sarah Sunny Friedman, who passed away peacefully on October 9th at the age of 91, surrounded by her family, many of whom are here today. For 67 years, Sunny Friedman was the beloved wife of Leonard Friedman and the mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and path-breaking Los Angeles businesswoman who was the matriarch and driving business force in creating one of the most successful jewelry stores in Los Angeles. Together, Sunny and Lenny Friedman created a legendary family-owned business in Westwood Village. Starting out in 1946 as Crescent Westwood Jewelers, the business is now known as Sarah Leonard Fine Jewelers and is still thriving today, with 3 generations of family members in the family business. Sarah Leonard is the oldest business in Westwood Village. Both Sunny and Lenny were first-generation Americans and Chicago natives. Their story is the American dream come true. They met in 1942, and Lenny proposed to her on their first date. Of course, she told him he was crazy. After Lenny served 4 years in the Army during World War II, he returned from the war, and they were finally married in 1946. That same year, they moved from Chicago to Los Angeles and started a tiny mom-and-pop jewelry store in November 1946 in Westwood Village, which itself had only been founded 17 years earlier. At that time, there were still scores of undeveloped dirt lots throughout Westwood Village, and on Wilshire Boulevard, there were 2 large signs that touted ample free parking, shop with ease. I wish that were as true today. A little parking shortage there. But years later, Sunny told friends that she thought Tiny Crescent Jewelers would close within a year. But it didn't close. Through Sunny's exceptional marketing savvy and Lenny's expertise as a graduate gemologist, their legendary customer service as well, their business not only survived, it has thrived for 67 years. Sarah got her nickname from her sunny disposition, which was always marked by her warm smile that always lit up a room. Sunny worked side by side with her beloved husband Lenny for 65 years. Both Sunny and Lenny Friedman were inducted into the National Jewelers Retail Hall of Fame, and in 2003, Sarah Leonard Jewelers was honored by the Los Angeles Business Journal as the family-owned small business of the year. Sunny and Lenny Friedman and their entire family have provided key leadership to the National Jewelers Association, the Westwood and UCLA communities for decades, and to the American Gem Society, Westwood Rotary Club, Westwood Kiwanis, American Red Cross, Westwood Chamber, Westwood Business Improvement District, Friends of Westwood Library, Westwood Community Council, Westwood Neighborhood Council, Jewelers for Children, and many, many others. Joining us in council chambers today is Sunny's beloved husband of 67 years, Lenny Friedman, all of her 3 children, daughter Linda, son-in-law Jeff Abel, son Don, son David, and daughter-in-law Gail Friedman, as well as one of the granddaughters, who I may mispronounce, Gordana, and her husband Samuel Feinberg, as well as Sunny's caregiver, Melody Fraco. Sunny is also survived by 4 other grandchildren, Ariana, I believe, or Ariane, and Robert Walker, David and Laura Abel, Aaron Friedman, Risa Friedman, as well as 4 great-grandchildren, Cole and Paige Walker, Jacob and Spencer Abel. And we join with the entire Westwood community and all of Sunny's family and friends and all of us to express our heartfelt condolences and just say that a diamond is forever, and so is our love for Sunny Friedman, who will be sorely missed.
Mr. Koretz, thank you very much. To the Friedman family, we welcome you here on this special moment. What a beautifully read, Mr. Koretz. Everyone go on. Mr. Sadia.
Yes, I want to ask that we adjourn in memory of Hope Gamboa, a very robust
exciting lady who passed away this Tuesday at 88 years. She was married to Josh Gamboa for 60 years. The Gamboas are related to my family through marriage. And I spent many years with Hope, many Christmas evenings with her as she played the piano and exhorted all of us to sing along. I'm not big on public expressions of song, but she got us all to participate. My family's been very involved in the Christian churches in the Northeast, Garbanza Church, and Hope and Josh were always there with their families who've played a big role in developing many churches both in the Northeast and in the east side of the city and into the San Gabriel Valley. She was a very robust woman, loved her husband, loved her family, but more than all, she loved Jesus Christ, and that was her Savior. And she is now laid to rest. She leaves her boys and her daughter, her grandchildren, and a great community of people from the church who always enjoyed her. She was one of the most enthusiastic persons you could ever meet. If you ever met her and didn't have a smile, she wanted to know what was wrong with you and wanted to inspire you that there were better things ahead for you. And we will all miss her each and every Sunday. Thank you so much. Amen.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zedillo. Thank you. All members, go on, serve the city well. Every day's a blessing, and this meeting's adjourned.